ready to record?
Lights, camera, action. Here we go. 3, 2, 1, and... Oh,
Let's try that again.
okay. 3, 2, 1... What?
Stupid piece of...
What's happening here?
It's saying that we need our Bethesda.net account to record the podcast?
Oh, this is getting out of hand.
The Gaming Lovers Podcast with Brendo and Jem.
Well, hopefully no one else has had their Bethesda.net account issues like the Doom players have recently. Welcome, one and all, the Gaming Lovers, episode number 67. I'm Brendo.
I'm Jem.
And we do not require your login for the Bethesda.net fiasco in order to listen to this podcast, so count your blessings. Have you found the doctored screenshots amusing that people have taken from Super Mario 64, old school NES Kirby games saying, you need a Bethesda.net account to play this game, Mario? I have had a great deal of chuckles at the expense of Bethesda, and it's not even E3 season, so that's surprising.
Oh, it does not take much for something to become a meme in this day and age.
It is just so jarring seeing that actual message appear on the retro Doom, original Doom on the Switch. It's here and you can't play it unless you register it online. Mm-hmm. This is a game you would just buy a dodgy version of a 3.5-inch floppy disk from a computer swap meet, pop it in your computer. Sure, you might get a virus or 6, but you would just play Doom straight off the bat. No registering of accounts. Call me old school, but that's the way it should be.
I will call you old. Coming up in this episode of the Gaming Lovers podcast, we're going to be talking about games in real life, how video games have become so engrossed in our culture that people are transforming them into like real life experiences. So we're going to jump into that a little later on in this episode. Before we get there though, gaming goes.
Is this a duet or was it a song?
Well, if it was a duet, your timing was really bad.
No, it was like the with you in Frozen. They do alternating. Duet doesn't mean at the same time. I was trying to follow on and enhance the flavour of the song. But, in other words, I was just late to the party. Mm-hmm. Gaming goals. Let's actually talk about video games and not melodious instructions.
What have you been playing this week?
Where should I start? I've only got 2 games to report on. It's been a slim week. I mean, most people, if they played 2 video games in a week, 2 different video games, they would consider that spreading themselves too thin. But this is me spreading myself too fat. Is that a term? Don't think so. But that's what's happened here. I'll start on the portable entry. I've been getting further and further into Persona Q2. The sequel to the spin-off of the series, which was a spin-off of another series. And if you follow the Shin Megami Tensei into Persona Q, there's a lot of steps to get that far down the trend. Mm-hmm. People have been saying that the Persona series is getting a little bit milked, but we've seen a meme saying that, and we agree. Serve us as much milk as you want, because this milk is delicious. Persona Q2 has been quite engrossing recently, and I am finding it to be an absolutely perfect game no matter the length I have to play it. If I have 5 minutes, I'll have a great 5 minutes with it. If I have half an hour, it'll be a great half an hour. If I've played it next to you for about 2.5 hours the other night and I didn't get bored with it. Something about the gameplay loop. You enter a dungeon, you collect items and defeat nasties and draw your little maps on the bottom screen. That's all great. But then you will start to spread yourself too thin, resource, health, skill point wise, and will have to retreat. It is an inevitability in this game that you will have to retreat. And when you do, all your progress through that dungeon map is saved. You then sell all the loot that you've gotten from either treasure chests or monsters, and then you use that to buy new equipment, new items, and then you go further through the dungeon, stronger than last time you did that loop. It fits together nicely. You feel the progress of leveling up it's noticeable. And I love it in JRPGs in particular, when a level up is noticeable. From level 13 to 14, you feel more powerful and you feel more effective. And that's a good thing when you are doing such a stat-based combat. You want to feel powerful. I had some issues, I'll admit. First boss of the first dungeon, I may have had a game over and I may be playing on easy, and that's a little embarrassing to admit. But since then, I have reconfigured my team. I have a great strategy at the moment, in particular with two very helpful party members. I have a tank in my front line. I'm using Kanji for that role. He has an awesome ability called Machismo Wall, which just sounds superb as a skill tactic. It's no slurp kiss like Chrono Trigger had, but Machismo Wall, that's a great name for a skill. Basically, he takes the hits for the whole front row, and then next to him I have Chie Satanaka from Persona 4 as well, and she has a counter stance ability, so anyone on her row that gets hit, she will counterattack. And since she's very much a physical-based attacker with high attack power, that combination, anytime that front row gets hit, Chie whops them back. So it's helped. It has definitely helped, that little combination. The interactions between party members, between different games, we've seen it with Persona 3 and 4 quite a few times. So in the fighting games, in Persona Q1, we've seen these interactions between the crew of Persona 3 and Persona 4, but now we're interacting with the crew of Persona 5 as well, so you do have more different dynamics. Which, if you're a fan of this series, which if you've gotten this far in the spin-offs, you probably are, wouldn't recommend it as a launching pad to the Persona series. But for people like yourself and myself, who have invested in these characters so much, love their quirks, you just get two random characters together and you're like, oh, I can see this is going to be fireworks right here. I love it so much, and I'm greatly enjoying my time with Persona Q2. A JRPG that has 25 bloody characters to choose from by the time you have everyone in your party. You can only have 5 on your team at any given time. That means I have to play favourites. And when you got a group like this, I don't want to play favourites. I want everyone to have a chance.
Especially when you've got such a great cast to choose from.
Yeah.
You kind of feel like you're missing out on one of your favourites because they're all so good.
Yeah, and they have introduced in this one new special screenings, continuing with the theatre motif of this game, where it will be a specific challenge within a smaller version of a level that you've already explored, and you will have 3 party members that must come along for it. So it's like a side mission, and it helps you rotate some of those people in and out of your team. Just means that my whole team's like level 17, and then I have to bring along a level 4. You just stay in the back row and try not to die while the rest of the people do the heavy lifting.
Yep.
But it's a nice way to help you rotate people in and out. Try some new tactics. Maybe someone is better than you thought. And I have enjoyed mixing and matching some of those teams. So, top stuff. I'm greatly enjoying Persona Q2.
Good. Anything else on your list?
I can continue if you would so like me to. I have been experimenting with the Xbox Game Pass this month, and basically all of my console gaming has been using the Xbox Game Pass. For the month of July, I thought I would give it a full month of my attention. I tried a game called Super Hot, a game that I knew I wanted to play, and then used the Xbox Game Pass to play it. The second game I chose was The Outer Wilds, a game I'd never heard about. Checked a review score, sounded like something I would like, gave it a shot, and I fell in love with it. The third reason why I have wanted to try something like the Xbox Game Pass, but was too scared to commit financially until that wonderful little sale/loophole, was that there are games, and I'm quite forgiving when it comes to which sort of games I will play. There are some substandard games that may have an incredible concept, but the gameplay is a little rough. And if you invest money in buying them, it may feel like, oh, I could have bought a good game instead of this sort of good game. But with a Game Pass subscription service, you've got access to it. There's no extra money down in order to play a game that's not superb. And because I do like the unappreciated games, I have been playing Vampire this week, and that is a 6-letter word with a Y, and I hate the way that's spelt. It just hurts my brain. Vampyr.
Should have come out when we were teenagers. That would have looked cool. Now it just looks dated.
It is a game from a developer that you may have heard of, Don't Nod, which spelt backwards is Don't Nod. How funny is that?
Palindrome.
It's a palindrome. And they made Life is Strange, pretty much a completely narrative-based game with dialogue trees, no real action except for a bit of puzzle gameplay. But this is something completely different for them. There is still a lot of dialogue and a lot of character-driven stuff in Vampire. We're in the plague era of London. It's shambles, it's fallen apart, and you are, unfortunately, recently recruited into the vampirism with a Y. No, not really. I actually don't know if that's going to be a plot point of why they spelt vampire that way, because every time they refer to vampires in the game, it's just spelt normal vampire. So I don't know. Maybe they did think it was 90s kid edgy. Now, there is an interesting little twist in Vampire, and the hook that's made me nibble that... Not the hook, the bait. I got my analogy completely wrong there. The bait that made me nibble the hook for this game is that you get big experience points boosts from feeding on NPCs, as you would expect from a vampire game.
Yep.
However, and here's the twist, if we played something like Knights of the Old Republic, for example, people say you save someone from being beaten up by thugs, you chase them off with your lightsaber, probably kill the thugs, but you did a good action, so it gets you good points. And the person says, oh, here's my reward money for you for saving my life. And you say, no, don't worry about it. A good deed is enough reward in itself. And you then take the light side points and the experience points, and you're happy because you're playing as a good person. You don't need that extra money. In Vampire, you're playing as a doctor. And so you want to try and cure people of their problems, of their illnesses, of the colds or the fatigue they're experiencing. By doing so, you increase the quality of their blood, which then means you get more experience if you may nibble them on the neck a little bit and kill them. Now, what makes it even more interesting is the more that you unlock about someone, the more details about their life also increases that experience point yield. But you don't get that unless you kill them. So you're doing these side quests for very minimal reward unless you take their life. So how does that make you feel? What's your opinion on this? You have got a guy in the hospital who has a busted up arm from an accident, and he's a very low level. You can hypnotize him and tell him to follow you into a dark alley, and then you take his life, and wonderful, you get the experience. But in order to get his experience point yield to the highest possible thing it can be, you have to talk to him about his family and solve his little quest that he has and learn that he has no wife anymore because she's dead. His children are hungry, and he's basically had to ask them to go to one of his workmates' houses for a feed because he's in the hospital and can't work because his arm's busted. He's a labourer. I can't kill this man now. I've learned all these things. His children will be fatherless.
I don't know, I guess it depends on how you want to roleplay the game. If you want to be kind of like the vampire that owns being a vampire and acknowledges that their food comes from human blood, or if you're trying to, I guess, Cullen family it up. It's total, and that's what is great about a lot of video games in this day and age, is that you do get the choice and see the outcomes for both, and they kind of force you to think about some of the moral implications along the way. And this game has tested my morality, my in-game morality, because I normally don't hunt people down and suck their blood out of their body. But with this case study of this game, it is fascinating. And the further I dig, the more I flip-flop on what I'm going to do. I thought I was going to play as a good vampire. I'm a doctor. I'm a good vampire. I'm going to cure people, and I'm not going to suck their blood and kill them. But as I'm progressing through this game, I am starting to be drastically underleveled, and I need their large
experience point bonuses. You kill an enemy. They're these like rabid vampire creature ghoul things called skulls. You kill them, you get like 10 experience points. 10. A measly 10.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if I have a fully maxed out person that I've done all their quests and all their hints and I know all about their life and I've done all their stuff, I can get thousands of experience points. That is a big difference. And this gameplay, the combat gameplay is not exactly easy. I am underleveled, like I said, so the temptation is there. The temptation to feed. Another slight hiccup, though, is that if I do that, it starts to unravel the condition of the district of which they are now gone in. And if you feed on too many people, the entire area devolves into chaos. People start going crazy. No one wants to give you a quest anymore. And it's disasterific. And if any NPCs are fed on, you cannot get any information from them. You cannot get any more trading with them. They're gone forever.
Mm-hmm.
And there are people that the very first time the game gives you this choice, it basically says, here's the tutorial, you can feed on this man who's just a thug, who's just killed someone else and now he's wounded, he's vulnerable, time to feed, or you can let him go. And when I just did a quick Google search of seeing, are there actually safe NPCs that you can feed on? The example the person said, who created that topic, said, oh, like that first guy who's just a thug. And everyone's like, you realise he's actually quite important to the story and you just ate him the first opportunity you had and now he's gone. I don't know what to do in this game. I'm so conflicted.
If you don't feed, I imagine your character's like weakened, but like do you know how in some video games if you don't like actually literally drink water and eat food throughout the gameplay, like in Fallout, your health drops. Is there any kind of penalties like that?
There's no detriment. There's no fast way to level up.
Okay.
And because I'm trying to explore the whole of London, sure, the areas near the hospital, which is the main base, I can safely handle the enemies there. But once I've started to go out to save other people who are being attacked by creatures, trying to get further through some of the side quests, I'm being out-leveled at a factor of, like, the enemies are 10 levels above me, and I don't stand a chance. So, I was going to be a good man, but I'm going to report back next week probably and just say, yeah, I basically just massacred the entirety of London to feed my thirst. Sorry, London. So it is an interesting dichotomy of trying to be a legitimate good doctor. You can brew cures for people's fatigue and their colds and their pneumonias and all these other things, and actually help them. Mm-hmm. But by doing so, you may just make them prime meat for the nibbles.
Have a giant feast on all of the town in one hit.
And, did I mention this game immediately autosaves after any choice, any dialogue option you've done? So I have had people where I'm like, I'm going to help you, and then I pick the wrong thing and they hate me now, and I'm like, right, well, I'm going to eat you first. If I do eat anyone, it's going to be you. So every choice is immediately saved, and there's no going back from that. You can't unsuck a neck. That's all I'm saying. So I'm having a good time with that. The combat is substandard and janky, and the camera sort of drives me nuts. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if I would enjoy it more if I was a stronger vampire, perhaps. So maybe I'm just putting a handicap on my own enjoyment by trying to be good.
I think that's part of the whole way that they've built the game.
Why do they have to make me feel bad for learning about people? Oh, dear. Anyway, that's my updates. That's all I've been playing this week, those two games. What about yourself? I know what you've been playing, but why don't you share it with everyone else? Your new obsession.
Divinity? No, we actually haven't really played that this week. I think we maybe did 1 or 2 sessions.
What happened to our co-op time, darling? We were supposed to be co-op gamers.
This week, if you follow us on social media, you probably already know, but we got our hot little hands on Fire Emblem 3 Houses, Day 1. And boy howdy, in the words of Brendo.
That's gimmick infringement.
It is so good. And the reviews across the board have been pretty solid, a lot of 9s and 10s. I have been enjoying it. I have still kind of, I think, in early story stages. I'm just taking my time, really exploring and getting to know all of my students. So for those who don't know, Fire Emblem, much like all the other games in the series, is a tactical role-playing game. And it's very much turn-based. You have all of your teammates take turns, and then the enemies have turns, and if there are allies on the field, then they have their turns. And you're hoping that you've paired people up and like strategically place them in the right spots on the field and in the correct terrain so that they will have the advantage if anyone charges at them.
Yeah. Tactical RPG, square grid-based gameplay. You move them, they have a certain amount of squares they can move. It's very board game-ish.
Yes.
I dig it. The funny thing is, Fire Emblem wasn't out in the West until Smash Brothers Melee introduced Marth. And everyone's like, who the heck is this guy? We've never seen him.
Mm-hmm. And it has become swiftly like a really popular series that Nintendo's released. And this is probably, in my opinion, I mean, I haven't finished the other one, so this is a very skewed opinion, but I have enjoyed this a lot more than the others that I've picked up and then subsequently put back down.
Yeah, well, when I played Awakening, you've got that combat when you're doing missions and things like that. But outside of that, it was basically just a visual novel. And there was no other real gameplay outside of the combat. But in this one,
so many more mechanics. So you start off as a mercenary. You can play as a girl or a boy. And pretty early on, they get you to choose between the three houses. So it's sort of Harry Potter-ish, but Slytherin is missing. So you have the Blue Lions, there is the Black Eagles, which is technically the Red House, and then the Golden Deers.
What?
Yes, just to confuse you.
Okay.
And each of them represent like a nation that is in the continent of Fodlan. So they have been somewhat warring factions, and things have divided them into what they are now. They are kind of at a tentative bit of peace, but you can kind of see the beginnings of a new war on the horizon, especially between two of those houses. They kind of butt heads a lot.
Well, this is still sounding very Fire Emblem-ish. I'm yet to hear anything different.
Aside from the colours, look reminding me so much of Harry Potter. So you save the life of these, the heads of the houses that are all basically royalty as well. And after doing so, they all offer you a position kind of in their court, I guess. But then that gets trumped as you're escorting them back to basically their school / Hogwarts / giant cathedral church. The female pope, we'll call her Joan. That's not her name. Rhea. Lady Rhea basically says, oh, you should become a teacher because you have qualifications. Yeah. Not really.
How old are you in this game?
She's supposed to be a kid, but she's referred to by her father, and I'm putting father with a question mark because I'm still a little unsure if that's really her dad. He's looks like he's maybe 40, so I guesstimate maybe 20 top as far as age, maybe younger. She seems like she's slightly older than the students, but not by much, which at least for the whole fact that they've brought in these romance mechanics that you can romance certain students. If she was too much older, then that would be illegal. So
it's not illegal, just a little bit questionable.
Just unethical a little bit. They've put her not in the teacher's quarters either. They've plonked her in a student dormitory as well. I'm like, okay, so what is she, a student or a teacher? Because she has to take lessons too and try to keep up with the kids.
Oh. That's just what you want.
So I'm like, this seems really questionable to me. Why have they given someone, yes, she's a mercenary and she's helped and learned she's good on the battlefield, but aside from that, she's not really helpful in many other areas.
So those playing along, you can tell how much Jem likes a game by how much she rambles about every little detail. All I want to know is two things.
Okay.
One, is there fishing?
Yes,
Because
of course there is.
it must be a
It's a
Japanese
Japanese
RPG if there's
RPG.
fishing. Secondly, I have seen that there is like a calendar system when you've been playing.
Yes, it is a lot like Cold Steel. So if you've played through the Trails of Cold Steel series, like we have, it's similar. You have a day off each week to either explore, partake in seminars where you're basically a student and you learn from other teachers, and some of the other students can join to help boost your stats. There's like little fake missions you can go on to help level up, so a bit of extra grinding, which in these kind of games you always need.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got to decide on that day off the Sunday whether you're going to explore and like have nice little tea sessions or share a meal with your students, or if you're going to do a seminar or do the other things. And you've only got so many activity points to spend for that Sunday, and so you really have to try to manage your time. And you can also, they give you this mechanic of recruiting / stealing students from other houses, so long as they're not the top three
As long as it doesn't
like
involve
heads of the house.
actual kidnapping.
No,
I'm sure
no,
it's
no.
fine.
You win them over. It's like wooing them basically. You'd be like, hey, come over to my house. Like, well, that sounded
See,
that sounded really
we were
seedy.
saying questionable morals. If you're a teacher and you're saying that, I'm going to have to check you're working with children's qualifications. Thank you very much.
Oh, but basically, like, you become friends with them and keep boosting the bond, which is similar to the support system that's in all the other Fire Emblem games.
Mm-hmm.
So when you do go out on proper missions, if you've got high bonds, but like between you and characters or other like teammates between each other, then if they are side by side, close by, they kind of boost each other.
Yeah, boost to accuracy, or they'll take hits for each other, defense, and stuff like that.
And the more you pair them up, the faster you can then see those interactions. And that's one thing I think that's really improved, is the interactions and things like that with Awakening in particular. A lot of those, it was very visual novel-y, where you've got like the still image and then just the text. And after a while, like depending on what headspace you're in, that can be really exhausting, doing all that reading, or kind of a little boring.
Yeah.
And if you had very repetitive like missions and stuff too, then it becomes a little monotonous. Thankfully, they're almost like cutscenes. Well, there are actual like animated cutscenes, which are beautiful.
Fire Emblem animated cutscenes are always gorgeous.
But the nice thing is, like, depending on whether you choose like the male or female protagonist, they've put them in there, so it's catered to both choices, which is really nice. But as far as just the interactions between characters, it's kind of more like the 3D models that you see as you like running around the monastery.
Yep.
And they're actually, talking and doing actions, and it's engaging to watch and not just have to like listen and read. So I think that's a huge improvement, and I've found it so addictive. And yeah, I find myself like, oh, is that the time? I'm still playing this.
How many hours have you put in this week? Do you have an estimation?
I think just a little over 15 since we got it.
Oh. Impressive work.
Yes.
We won't say how many days it's actually been out between when it was released and this recording session, because people would do the mathematics and...
Hey, I haven't played it at all today. I could make that number way higher.
Maybe after we're done with this. We'll see if we can get... The Switch is portable. We will see if Jem can refrain from playing Fire Emblem Three Houses before this podcast ends.
But if you are playing it or going too soon or down the road, I would recommend, there are certain like events that kind of aren't as economical, I guess I would word it, for when you've got those activity points that don't really give you as much boost as certain other ones do. Having the sit-down meals and that is really good, because you can have 2 students and it usually boosts several things at once. Your teaching skills, your bonds, and their bonds between each other. Whereas if you have tea time, which feels very much like a dating sim, as amusing as that is, it doesn't really give you as much boost, and it takes up a lot of expendable energy, which you could get the same boost just by sending them like a little gift or finding a lost item that's around campus and stuff like that. So there's lots of little things you can do to build it up without it actually wasting any of your very valuable like activity credits.
How
that you
has
have.
this been? Because normally when you play a game like this or a Persona or Cold Steel, where you have limited dates to do things, you have always been, where's my guide? I'm getting on this. And we live in Australia, which is ahead of the timeline. So we
Yeah.
got this launch day in the morning.
We had it a day early.
There was probably no guides to draw from for that first 24 hours or so.
Some websites do get advanced copies so they can release basic bare bones kind of guides and suggestions, but as far as like full blown this day this is available, none of those guides were up. So I've been flying blind, but
Have you been enjoying it? Because that's what I wanted to ask you. Because that's how I play Persona. That's how I did Cold Steel the first time I went through it.
I am enjoying it. I am a little nervous about some of my choices, and I'm like, am I squandering my time? Am I completely mismanaging my party? There's so many little things that you can do to tweak with the combat and stuff as well, like adding in battalions that you can summon to help rattle the enemy or to come in and do a group heal and stuff like that, like some special perks. So there's lots of little new nuances, and it's very fiddly, and you can spend a lot of time in those menus prepping for a battle that won't take that long, you know?
To be fair, now that I know how long you have played this, because I was sitting next to you playing Persona Q2 last night while you were playing that, and I was looking at all the menus and stuff. You were just navigating like you knew what you were doing on everything. I'm like, there is so much in this game, and she
There's
is
a lot.
just doing everything.
Well, the tutorial is really good, actually. They drip feed it at a really good pace. Everything's been pretty clear to me. There's only been one or two times when I've Googled something going, what does this mean? So I think it's fairly organic to navigate the menus and the systems. And if you've played Fire Emblem before, you'll at least understand most of it anyway. Or if you're familiar with Japanese RPGs, especially like tactical ones, then you've got an advantage. But this is a good entry-level game in this series. You don't really need to know the other ones. I mean, I'm sure it helps, but this feels fresh and feels like a good place for someone maybe new to be introduced to this series and start here, because it is so engaging, and if they love Harry Potter and they love anime, this might be a great way to be like, hey, try this game out.
I did see that there was a white owl in one of the bits too.
Yes.
So
I
it's
lost it.
Guys, you're starting to show your hand a little bit.
And seriously, there is one teacher / like clergy guy that is like got a green-haired Snape, basically. It's pretty funny.
He's just dyed his hair after Slytherin was erased from existence. Two final questions from me about Fire Emblem Three Houses. First of all, how did you choose which house to align yourself
Oh my
with?
goodness.
Because
I literally sat on that menu for like maybe half an hour.
if
I was
they
messaging you going, I don't know what to choose.
if they gave you, 10 hours to get to know everyone and get to know which nation represents which and what their stance is on such and such, if you're more politically minded,
Yeah, they don't.
and then let you decide, you might have a more deeper pool to draw from. But they drop
Totally.
it on you so early.
They really do. There's one kind of false start where after you've rescued their lives and they're kind of all three house leaders are like, oh, you should come to my country or my nation and join da-da-da. And
Come to my house.
and so I thought when that first popped up, I thought, oh no, I have to choose it now. And so I'm like, okay, I think I'll go with this one. I kind of like this guy's vibe, so I am officially the Team Blue Lions.
Yeah.
So gone with more
Go Lions! It sounded like a sports team just
It
then.
really does. But they're more chivalrous. They're a lot of cavalry, a lot of horseback kind of attacks and things like that.
There you are, talking them up, just like a true
No, they're-
Kool-Aid drinker of the Blue Lions.
All teams are great, and you will be surprised. I kind of went with the strength attackers rather than the mage team, which is like the red team. And then the yellow is like a lot of rogues, a lot of bow and arrows, a bit more cheeky, which I think would appeal to you.
I'll keep that in mind.
But I don't know, I went with my gut as far as going with the Blue Lions. And I do wish, though, as far as like a teacher at the school, that you could kind of just teach all of them and then get to know them and then choose who you side with.
Okay.
You know, like I think
Yeah.
that would be so cool, because you don't really know who to trust. Like, you can tell that they're not telling you everything very early on.
Yeah.
As you do, like, when you meet new people, like, they're not going to tell you the whole life story. And, like, there's always people that, like, keep things very close to the chest.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of those main characters, like, you know something is up. But they do that. They're so well written. A lot of the characters, even some of the side, like, students and things like that, or other faculty members, have a lot of depth. So that's another plus.
Cool. And my only final question is, after you befriend the students and you get them to like maximum friendship, can you mesmerize them, take them around the corner and kill them with vampire fangs to take all that experience back? Is that possible?
I think you'll be saving the bloodshed for perhaps when everything hits the fan. I'm
Oh.
assuming that's going to happen. I mean, it's just, I don't know. I haven't finished it. I've barely scratched the surface, I feel like, even with my 15 hours in. But you know something's going to come of all of it. Like, I just...
Well, don't bond with these children too much. Let's just say that.
Well,
Thankfully,
if I steal them all over to my house, then none of them will be left on the opposing team. Right?
Excellent. Excellent. Sounds like it's been an eventful week for you with your gaming goals.
Yes. Yes, it has. So I keep promising to like finish all this other stuff on my backlog and it keeps getting pushed back or ignored.
Welcome to the Brendo method.
Oh my wordy. But I am very much loving this. That said, I would still love to play more Divinity with you, like while we have the chance to do some co-op gaming.
Oh, you say the sweetest things.
And then when you're at work, I have the TV all to myself.
Well, groovy. I do not foresee much difference in our gaming goals throughout the next week, but who knows? We'll save that for the end of the episode, as always. But after this, we had a little bit of fun doing some real-life video game action involving actual leg movements in a world of virtual reality. More on that after this.
You're listening to the Gaming Lovers Podcast. Want to join the conversation? Visit thegaminglovers.com. Record your comment or question by clicking on the button on the right-hand side. And you could be featured in the next podcast.
It's kind of funny how life comes, full circle. We make video games about simulating real life, and now we are turning video games into real life. We can never leave things well enough alone.
Yeah, there's lots of experiences out there, no matter which genre of video games you enjoy. We have found there to be quite a few real-life experiences that you can get out there in the big wide world and try video game-style dynamics
Totally.
in the game. I mean, I know there's like soccer games they do in real life, and I'm sure that started as a video game. It's incredible. It's amazing.
Maybe if they had cars on the field. I'm sure somewhere's done that, Rocket League in real life.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure like Top Gear did it years ago. We, this past week, revisited one of our favourites out-of-the-box video game style experiences with Zero Latency VR, celebrating a young friend of ours' 21st birthday. We decided to treat him, take him out, and recruit a ragtag bunch of futuristic super soldiers that we are and do a sci-fi based VR mission in a empty room, basically.
Yep.
You are free to walk around and duck crawl if your sister fall over.
That was so funny. I wish we had handed someone's phone over to the game master so they could have filmed it, because that would be like a viral video right there. Such a shame. Such a shame.
But we have done VR specifically with Zero Latency. This is not a paid promotion.
No.
Not a paid advert.
If they want to give us free sessions for all this, we've talked about them before on the podcast. Come on, guys, we love you. Share the love.
Well,
back. Yeah.
We are not exactly close to the city of Melbourne, where the original facility was here in Australia, but they opened one up not too far from our doorstep, which meant we wanted to give that one a shot. We did some of the same sort of experiences we've done in the past.
Yep, but just upgraded.
Yeah. But it's the fact that you can actually walk around and experience VR and live a video game experience.
Yep.
that is something that I have greatly enjoyed. We've done a few different things throughout our lives.
Absolutely. And as far as VR, we know that people have them in their homes, but I tell you what, VR in a proper facility where you have the space to walk around safely versus just in a lounge room where you're tempted to sit down like we usually do when we play video games, that usually makes me feel very sick. Because VR kind of calls on you to really physically move through a space so that way your body doesn't become nauseous.
Yeah. The difference is, I can't even put into words how dramatic the difference is between a PSVR headset game compared to walking around with a squad of 8 friends in a virtual space. They have cooperative missions. They have team-based player versus player. They have zombie stuff. They have space sci-fi shooters.
Yeah.
They've got a weird one where you're walking on walls and tripping your brain out doing puzzles.
Engineer them.
Good fun. Good fun. And they have locations worldwide. It's not just in Australia. Something that we think you might want to check out if you live in Australia, Canada, Germany, Hong Kong, Ireland, Japan, Malaysia, Macau, Mexico, Qatar, hero. Portugal, Spain, Saudi Arabia, Singapore, South Korea, Thailand, United Kingdom, or United States. I didn't know there was that many around the place, and that's pretty cool.
Well, all you need really for that kind of setup is a good warehouse. They can send you the software for the actual games, and then the expensive part of the $3,000 computers that you wear in the backpack sections along with the guns and the headsets. Not a cheap setup, but it is so much fun and a great team building experience, I think, too. I would recommend it to a lot of businesses that wanted to have a corporate day out. I think that would be a great way, especially the zombie survival one, see how they handle under pressure, communication.
It should be the way to interview new clients for your job. If you can't handle the pressure of a virtual zombie getting in your face when your gun is reloading, you do not have what it takes to handle our high pressure workforce.
But we saw some different sides of people's personality come out a little bit when we were going through that, and when even just the simple act of crossing a fake bridge in a video game and thinking that you actually could fall several stories down had a few of them with wobbly legs and crippling fear, struggling to walk when they knew full well that they were just in an empty room.
Yeah, I have no issues walking a character in a video game over a heights area.
Or swinging through Manhattan like Spider-Man does.
Yeah, it's fine. But once your viewpoint, looking down at...
and you feel like it's you.
20 floors down, it raises the heartbeat a little bit. More shooter things. Maybe you're a fan of shooters and you want to experience something in real life. We've been doing a little chatting about this. We've tried paintball in real life as well. That's very much a realistic shooter experience because those bullets bloody hurt.
What happened to paintball games in 10 Things I Hate About You, where it was water bombs and you're actually just throwing them and not getting hit with things that are coming out of a pressurized gun? Come on, I want that kind of paintball again. Sorry, side rant over.
It's okay. Well, you've always got paintball experiences. That's obviously the world over. Airsoft is another one. If you want to experience the true shooter fear. Nothing says it like airsoft bullets.
Ouch.
Yeah, good fun. But in checking these locations, these facilities, these ideas that people have had, we also found maybe you want to up the scale a bit from paintball. Maybe, infantry isn't what you're after. Maybe it's armoured vehicles shooting paint at each other, just like a real-life game of World of Tanks.
Armageddon, I believe, in the UK lets you drive, armoured vehicles, and you have one person shooting, one person navigating, one person driving. It's kind of a team effort. Another great team-building thing right there. Or an ideal Bucks day out, I reckon.
I'm sure, yes. Nothing says Bucks Day like shooting each other in tanks. That's manly.
That's pretty awesome. I honestly think, it'd be fun to see pictures of a hen's day or night doing that
Crazy
too.
ladies.
All in tutus and crazy outfits and stuff in tanks. That would be hilarious.
And for our international listeners, that is Armageddon, like armour. But it's spelt the correct way. The Queen's English. With a U in there. So if you're trying to find it and you can't find it, you're probably spelling it wrong. Armageddon, I found that hilarious because World of Tanks was quite popular. It hit a surge of popularity amongst, like, the elder generation too. I'm talking 50s. 60s. I've had workmates in their 60s telling me, oh, I play video games too. Have you heard of World of Tanks? And they love it. And it's hilarious that they can actually try it in real life. That's kind of cool. I'm probably not going to make the trip all the way to the United Kingdom for a shot at Armageddon, but if I ever find my way there, I'm definitely putting that on the to-do list.
Going back to the VR really quickly, there was another one I discovered while I was on my road trip in America. I think I might have mentioned it. My brain's a little foggy on those memories of whether I brought it up on the podcast when I got back. But Natalie and I found in Las Vegas the Void VR. And what caught our attention were Star Wars posters. And we're like, ooh, Star Wars, what's this? And we found out that it was a VR experience. And they also had a few other options. One was like a horror theme. Another one was based off Alien. And then this one was Star Wars. And Star Wars obviously has a plethora of video games and the like. And so to have a VR Star Wars edition was so much fun. It was different though because most VR like we have here in Australia is like an empty warehouse space. This is like the opposite. It's like claustrophobic. It's tiny little, almost like a rat maze where you've got little corridors and little doors and you make your way through it and you actually have physical things in the space that you interact with: doors, handles, buttons, chairs, guns that are hidden in the space that you can kind of see virtually, but yeah, like you don't realize that they're actually there in the real world too. So it was so clever and like I think refreshing for us after having done things like at zero latency to have a different experience, and that was so cool. And a slightly shorter experience as far as the story and stuff. Like the campaign for that wasn't as long as some other VR that we've done, but sometimes VR short bursts can be good for you because too long playing can hurt your head. But interestingly, the Void have also got, sadly they didn't have that option when we were there, but a Wreck-It Ralph one. I mean, come on. Wreck-It Ralph is like, you know, movie meets video games and kind of paying homage to all of that. So that's such a cool
to live that experience.
Yes,
would be pretty darn
and you
cool.
can go into the internet with them and you play classic video games and then have to fight off different things that go wrong. So I'm like, if I can find that, if that ever comes to Australia, I'll be jumping on that bandwagon. You know it.
To round out the shooter part of this little discussion, as far as living an actual shooter experience, how would you like to join, say, 200, 300, 400 other people who want to enjoy an experience as well? And look, you're in a facility. It's been done multiple times around the world, whether it be a university campus or something similar, and you've got 400 players all trying to survive about 8 hours of a real-life zombie outbreak.
It sounds like an episode of Paintball on Community.
Basically, that's what it devolves into. There are multiple event coordinators around the world who do things like this. The one that we've had a look at in the past and considered doing myself, but I found out after the fact, was called Zedtown. Australia has held multiple versions of this. Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide, all over Australia they've had these things. I think they've done them in the US as well.
I'm sure they have.
So you have Nerf guns, you have bullets, and as the day goes on, your numbers of survivors start to dwindle because, oh, didn't we tell you that some people start off infected and you don't know who to trust? It could be your best friend that you've gone to this event with, and within, 15 minutes, they might turn and try to tag you, and suddenly you also are a zombie. And thus the biggest game of gang up tag begins. If you are turned, you do head off to the makeup station and get actual prosthetics and bite marks and discoloured skin, which is just darn cool. And so pockets of misfits start to assemble because all their friends have turned and they're the only ones left from their groups. They all have to band together. Some people might last an hour, some people might last it to the very end. But the fact that you have a large-scale area to play in and you have the actual threat of your numbers dwindling,
Yep.
there's a little bit of paranoia. I probably wouldn't know who to trust because if somebody's low on ammo, they may try to take me out and take mine. I don't know if I like that, but that'd be something absolutely terrifying to do and very much a video game experience in real life.
Totally. And how cool would it be if, like, people met, like, if they were, like, in the final group of survivors and, like, someone met their future partner and that's, like, the story of how they met. How fun would that be?
Oh, they get to know each other and learn about their side
and
quests.
then one gets bitten by a zombie.
No! What a tragic pretend tragedy. Okay, maybe shooters are not up your alley. Maybe you're more of a cerebral gamer and you want to experience a realistic video game experience in real life, but you want to rely on your brains, not your brawn.
This sounds like a job for puzzle or escape rooms.
Which we are absolutely no stranger to.
No. And thankfully, you've never taken me to a horror one because
that is too darn scary.
I would not. You just wouldn't even get me in the door.
I like horror video games. I don't like the idea of doing a escape room, but there's actually like a crazy old woman trying to grab me by the ankles and drag me into the shadows.
No.
Or perhaps a man with a chainsaw bursting through a window. I've done something similar to that with the zombie zoo in Odaiba in Japan, and that was just a walkthrough thing. There was no pressure of trying to solve puzzles or escaping with a time limit. Could you imagine the fear? You'd be so paranoid doing an actual horror one. They're not all scary, though.
No.
Let's make that clear.
I tell you what, though, if I worked at one of those places, I would love scaring people. I'm a hypocrite that way, I know. But I would be really good at scaring people. I think I would. I would have a lot of fun doing that, but I would not be able to be one of the scaries. I can dish it out, but I can't take it.
Moving away from the scaries, probably what has captured my heart about video games from a very young age was the puzzle aspect of games. Using your mind to solve puzzles. I have this key, what does it open? Even something as simple as that, I had an interest in. And so as you get further along the series of video games throughout my life, things like Resident Evil that have, it's a zombie game, sure, but the gameplay revolves around puzzles. Mm-hmm. You're trying to solve puzzles to get, okay, I've got half a heart. Where do I get this? Where's the other half? What do I do when I get the two hearts? Do I put them in a painting? Mm-hmm. Do I put them in a statue? What do I do with these things? I've always liked that.
Who designed a police station like this?
we can ask many questions about the layout of that police station. Let me guarantee that.
There's also so many video games, kind of screams obvious to me anyway, of like 999, Virtue's Last Reward, Zero Escape, those like deliberate escape room video games that basically kicked this trend off in Japan and then the world.
Yeah, I discovered that series, the Zero Escape series, loved it, and unfortunately for my sister-in-law, who was trying to plan a surprise for me one day, it just so happened to be the day that I read about escape rooms being a real thing, told her about them as she was taking me to one as a surprise.
Yes.
Kind of burst her bubble a little bit. But the fact that it was in real life and I'd never heard about this, that was incredible a few years ago. The very gameplay of the Zero Escape series, I loved each self-contained escape room. And that gameplay, put it into real life, it has spread like wildfire. There will probably be dozens of escape rooms in any given city around the world.
Oh, yeah.
And the ones we've done have all been pretty good.
And it's kind of fun to share war stories too. Sometimes we would have a big group of friends go, and really escape rooms are their best when you've got 3, maybe 4 people tops, because a lot of the time you can't have, if you have any more than that, there's always someone just standing there watching really and not doing anything. So if you've got a small group, hopefully people that are smart and good like problem solvers, it helps you get through the space a lot faster. And we had a big group go, but we split up into teams, so that way we kind of competed to see who could get through rooms fastest, and we would compare stories like, how long did it take you to figure this out?
Yeah, if you do a 4 against 4 and you do alternating rooms, so one does room A, the other one does room B, and then you switch afterwards, that way everyone has experienced it. You can tell stories about the puzzles and what stumped you, what didn't, but not worry about spoilers because you've both done both rooms. And that's the worst thing about escape rooms, is that if you do a really good one, all you can say to people when you recommend it is, I can't say anything about it. This room was good. Just do it. Just do it. It had this puzzle. I can't tell you anything about the puzzle. Oh my gosh, just do it.
Yeah, sometimes you might be able to drop the theme of it. A lot of the ones that we've done were slightly like movie-based ones in the city, from like an Indiana Jones type one, and one that was kind of like The Mummy. There was a bit of like Prison Break, one which was very much like Saw.
The Slaughterhouse.
Yes, I did not like that one because they had really creepy ambient music playing, and it was a very cold room too. They made it feel like a refrigerator in there, and it. Yeah, no, I've said many times I don't like horror. I was not coping well in that room, and I remember you getting mad because we did not exactly cheat, but we used a loophole to escape early.
All right, when there is a chain padlocked that you're supposed to undo the padlock and pull the chain to bring a key down from up in the roof, and we can't get the padlock open, so you just hop on someone's shoulders and just grab the key.
Look, if I was legit tied, like locked in a room and a serial killer was going to come to cut me open, there would be any and all exit strategies are acceptable exit strategies. I didn't break down the door. We still use the key.
Where is your integrity, woman? I would gladly die a grisly death than take a shortcut and steal a key without earning it. Shame on you.
Oh, my word.
Now, there have actually been, as promotional tools, there have actually been video game-based escape rooms in the past. There have been Legend of Zelda ones. There was an official Resident Evil escape room. Doesn't that sound like fun? I guarantee there was a typewriter in there. And like we have said, there are scarier escape rooms with more twists and turns than you might expect.
Thankfully, none of the ones you've taken me to have had actors, because I would not be able to cope. I legit thought the first time we ever went to one of these escape rooms that there would be people ready to jump out at you. Like, I thought that was part of the deal.
Like a haunted house.
Yeah, like that. But a lot of the ones I'd heard of overseas, especially in America, because the horror ones are so popular, I thought that's what we were going to. And I, for the longest time, like it took, because that was when, for your birthday, for the surprise, Melissa and Steve took a little convincing for me to agree to like be a part of that group. Because I'm like, even if I'm not helping solve the puzzles, I will still be in the room. And if someone jumps out and scares us, I'm going to be the one that screams and runs into a door.
What was the James Corden, was it?
With Ariana Grande.
Laugh, if you want to have a great time watching someone else panic in absolute distress and fear.
Oh, I'm sure there's plenty of videos on YouTube of that too.
Yeah. Ariana Grande and
James Corden.
Yep. Escape room. Terrible stuff. Hilarious stuff. But yeah, I've always enjoyed those sort of puzzles. Ever since I played Return to Zork, I wanted to solve puzzles in my video games. So
would you ever do one if it was like 999 themed and you're on a sinking ship?
Yeah,
and that's your timer.
A bracelet that will stab you with lethal poison if you do anything wrong. And
well, I thought the first one was a bomb.
Well, look, you've got to die some way, I suppose.
Okay, let's move on to the next one, shall we?
Okay, so maybe you're not a good shooter. Maybe you're not the smartest cookie in the jar. That's not even a thing, but it sounded good.
This one would make the smartest cookie.
Well, if it had Smarties on it. I recovered it nicely.
Smarties, for those who don't know, are kind of like M&Ms, but not as good.
Completely inferior products.
Yep.
Sorry, Nestle.
Keep going.
Something else that we have actually tried in real life, in Japan, in Shinjuku, in Kabukicho, was at the Tokyo Mystery Circus facility, which, I wish we had more time to experience everything they had to give. Just like the, what was it, Escape from the Toilet of Despair escape room? A 15-minute escape room where you escape from a toilet.
Woohoo!
Oh, talk about living the dream. But they have also got a stealth experience, which we have talked about on our Japan return trip episode.
Yeah.
But it was so darn cool because when we went, it was the 20th anniversary of Metal Gear Solid.
Yes.
And it had music, it had puzzles, it had codec, it had rations, it had guards, it had cardboard boxes, it had bikini posters, it had everything that Metal Gear Solid had to give.
It was so incredibly well put together and well themed. Like, everything was spot on. It was... I kind of almost wish that we could go back and redo it now that we understand the mechanics. Like, we would have been much more confident. We probably still would have died in that stupid laser room, though, because we're just not that flexible.
I would have worn a skin-tight latex suit to this one and not had baggy
Catherine
pants.
Zeta-Jones it, huh?
That's it. I would have looked fantastic and saved the world.
It's definitely designed more for their physiques than our physiques.
Slender little Japanese.
Yes.
Flipping through laser beams. So unlike a lot of these other escape rooms, this is actually less puzzle-based and more hide-and-seek based, because you do have guards patrolling the area, and if you are sighted and they do hit you with their little laser beam gun, you'll lose time to complete your mission.
Yes.
And there are a few puzzles thrown in. You've got keycard doors to get the correct codes for. Or, if you're like somebody who I read their review of it, I believe it might have even been from like Polygon.com or something, when they did the Metal Gear experience, they were running out of time and had very little luck solving the puzzles that we actually did quite well with. And so, to get through one of the locked doors that the guard was going through, they actually snuck in behind them through the door and dove into a cardboard box behind the guard. Hey, whatever works.
It's a stealth mission. I mean, as a secret agent, you do whatever you can. You have some backup plans.
Now, at the moment, unfortunately, if you are a Metal Gear Solid fan, you have missed the boat. That theming is done, but they are still running it, and they have Lupin the Third, a anime movie, which was out many years ago. The Castle of Cagliostro, I discovered, or something along those lines. It was on SBS one night, and I watched it. It was great.
Yep.
And they have a jewel heist, basically, for that, where you have to evade the museum security and steal the gem. That's pretty cool. That's not quite as cool as Metal Gear Solid for me, but doing any sort of heist sounds incredible.
It's kind of a shame that those haven't taken off as much internationally as they have in Japan, and maybe they will. Give it a year or so, they might start to pick up more and more press. But those could work just as well as escape rooms, you know, those stealth games, having real people patrolling and having kind of almost rhythmic kind of routine things that you can pick up on so you can avoid them. And
until the guard takes a different way and you're squatting right in their path, which may have happened to me.
Like, it would be awesome to see that become a bit more widespread like the escape rooms have. And, like, it took a little while for them to come to international shores, but they did eventually. But at the moment, I haven't really found any as we've been digging online. Like, there's definitely not any in Australia, unfortunately. So
That's it. Let's make it.
Yeah.
The stealth experience down under.
You know, there's definitely a market for it. And if you can, I think, pair up with some good IPs maybe as well to get the audience of like Metal Gear Solid or another big brand, whether it be a TV show or video game or movie series, to help get it going. Come on, somebody do it.
We know that every second video game has a stealth section in it, so why not?
A James Bond one, could you imagine?
Perfect.
That would be awesome. And then right at the end, if you make it to the end, it should be like a bar, and you can get a martini.
Enjoy your martini. I don't want a martini. Too bad. This is the experience. Eat your olive.
Now, the next one on our list is the one that really kind of surprised me, but I don't know if I'd be able to do it, but man, am I jealous of the people that can. And that's taking platforming games and turning them into parkour parks.
Oh.
Legit, actual branded, permission licensed from Sega and Nintendo. How cool is it that there is legit like platforming parkour parks for Sonic and Super Mario? It's so cool.
The Tempest Academy do have multiple facilities in the US, and they are basically parkour training facilities. And when Sonic Forces was being released, unfortunately, yet another substandard Sonic game.
Sadly.
But it did give us the cross-branding of an official Sonic the Hedgehog parkour playground. That just sounds like all of my dreams gone into one at least maybe 10 years ago when my body was more nimble and less prone to injuries. I have no idea how I bruised this finger. It looks like it's broken, and I don't even know how I did it, and my knees hurt, and my neck's always sore. But go back 10 years, I would have been all over this like a nimble person.
The nimble Sonic fanboy that you are. As soon as you showed me some footage of this, I'm like, wow, it looks almost like a theme park / skate park. Or sometimes you go to those warehouses that are just full of trampolines. I don't know if other places have it, but here in Australia, especially Victoria, they're very popular. They're great for like kids' parties and stuff, like just huge warehouses full of trampolines and foam pits and stuff for people to jump into.
Yep.
And it kind of reminds me of that a little bit, but it's got all these obstacles where you do like a wall run, try to climb up a wall and then reach the top and pull yourself up and then flip off that and onto all this other stuff. And it's all themed and it looks amazing. And
everything from the ring placements just to the textures of the ground.
Yes.
And they've got, like you said, spring pads. Sonic bounces on springs. We've got trampolines. You've got foam pits. You've got spikes. Watch out for the spikes. They may not be as sharp as Sonic has it counted. All it's missing is a aquarium thing that you could dive in and drown because Sonic can't swim. But apart from that, they have everything you could possibly want. Maybe just a little bit of extra talent might be required to enjoy it to the fullest ability.
Yes.
That is quite an advanced real-life platforming situation.
I tell you what, though, I would love to see some like professional wrestlers, the ones that are the high flyers that do all the flips and stuff. Will Ospreay, Ricochet. So many of those who do just incredible stuff would be fun to like see them play in these like training, like parkour training facilities.
Just have a Falls Count Anywhere match in there and
oh yes,
perfect.
That would be awesome. They could do it on Up Up Down Down since from the New Day trio, Austin Creed, or Xavier Woods as he's known on WWE, has his gaming channel. So there's tie-in.
We could cross it over.
Why not? I would love to see that.
You'd just love to see Big E do a big belly flop into that pit. It'd be wonderful. Moving on, of course. Maybe we don't all have the ability to be Assassin's Creed parkour specialists.
Sadly not.
Through the Mario and Sonic lands that Tempest Academy have. And perhaps you're not even as high level of endurance as would be required for one of those boot camp obstacle courses or the Tough Mudder we have here or any of those where you're actually trying your darndest to get through these muddy pits and these high wooden walls and everyone works together to get through. We can do it all together. We can go down a level from that as well and maybe something a bit more fun and less at risk of breaking bones as inflatable playground parks. If you want the platforming experience, if you want an obstacle course to try to reach the goal like good old Mario would, give it a shot on something inflatable.
They are exhausting though. They look deceptively easy, right? You're on land and you watch these little kids fly across them, and then you, as a fully grown adult, you swim across to the floating island, just pulling yourself up on floating islands like winded me, and keeping your balance. Especially as little kids are running past you, not that easy. Climbing over some of these slippery obstacles, not so easy either. I really struggled with that. I spent like half my time going, okay, where did I put my asthma buffer?
I mean, Super Mario makes it look so easy. Jumping over all these obstacles, climbing up walls, everything that he does. We've tried it in real life with a inflatable water park thing. It looks like Wipeout, if you've ever seen that TV show.
Yes.
Basically, I thought, how hard can it be to get from A to B on this thing? And yes, walls are difficult to get up when they are slippery and no grip.
Yes, and it's really discouraging when you're an adult and you see kids that are like 6, like going past it and doing things multiple times and just looking at you like, what's wrong? This is easy. Because like they have no problem running across an inflated surface. Like as an adult, especially when you've got a bit more weight, it's sinking on you, and so you're more likely to slip over. There's just a little bit more hazard to it. I almost relished falling in the water because I was getting so hot from like the exertion of trying to run across the obstacle course. I'm like, I'll just stay in the water, thank you.
Well, there are other ones that aren't actually in water. They're just inflatable on land as well. So there's many different ones. These do go worldwide as well. I'm sure you can find one if you had a look around on the old internet. Platforming in real life. A lot more exhausting than in a video game, but perhaps it's something you would like to try.
I would say most people have heard of LARPing, or at least have seen it or heard it kind of referenced before. The live action role-playing games, people getting full-on dressed up in costume, whether that be like very fantasy-based clothing, or maybe medieval clothing and having like old-fashioned jousting or like fake sword competitions and the like. Going to big parks when you have usually a pretty big bunch of people coming together who not only will do like the dialogue parts of the story, but then will have a big battle. And there's different ways that they kind of count points of whether you're taking damage and things like that. And yeah, it's interesting. It's amusing to watch.
Yeah, some of them have big story missions that everyone's trying to work together on. Other times it is a civil war and everyone's fighting against each other. If you don't feel like combat's for you, I know that you can register to play as an NPC or a vendor or a merchant of some sort. Perhaps you want to be a quest giver. It doesn't have to be all as intense as running up with a sword and shield and trying to bop the other guy on the noggin. There are other options for you in the role-playing world of real life world of video game style experiences in the world.
Yes. And that's kind of a bit of a blur because it's not just video games, it's like D&D as well, so it's a big mix of all of that. And yeah, we have a friend that does LARPing quite regularly. We've never tried it ourselves.
I
we
am
like
very
the cosplay
curious.
aspect.
I would love to, when they have a big event, show up with an army of about 100 people in goblin outfits, march up as like an old wizard and say, just invade and just make all these people who are fighting amongst each other go, oh my gosh, we need to band together for the greater good. Who is this? And the person organising gets flipping through his notebook going, wait, this wasn't part of the script.
We are a rival clan. You are on our land.
I always thought that would be hilarious to just invade and be an all-powerful beast.
Would it be awkward though if they just kind of like looked at you and were like, yeah. I suppose if you had enough.
If you had a whole army of goblins, they couldn't do much to get to you.
That would be just fun seeing that, like people, because usually when people do those cosplays, you see them in the city or like walking to the events and stuff. Could you imagine just seeing like a sea of like people done up in goblin kind of cosplay walking together? Like that would be a fun sight.
Yeah, as a train driver, I have seen the occasional knight board the train, full armour, sword, shield. Just
usually when it's
there.
like Comic-Con season.
The problem is they can't reach the handrails because their armour restricts their arm movement. That's a shame.
Good thing that there's arm posts that they can grab a little lower down.
On a side note, when it comes to LARPing and when it comes to people in armour attacking each other, there's actually like official leagues that I have found clips of on the internet, complete with commentary, like an official sport of different nationalities at war with each other, but peaceful war, not real war.
More like I bop you on the head or I put you in a headlock kind of. So it's kind of like wrestling, but with old-timey armour on?
Yeah, it's kind of strange because they do have a sword, they do have a shield, and basically they just try to grapple each other to the ground. It's old-style medieval MMA.
You think they'd use their sword and shield?
Well, it doesn't do anything on armour. They're just like, dunk, 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 dunk.
No, I know, but like the whole point of the fight, if like that's what you were supposed to be pretending that you're using as weaponry, then anyways, just makes more sense in my mind than try to actually hit somebody.
Now, that isn't the only role-playing experience. It doesn't all have to be fantasy world, doesn't all have to be swords and shields, because if you're a fan of something more along the lines of Civilization or XCOM, perhaps you want to work together with other nationalities and work towards some sort of crisis-solving situation.
Crisis alert! Sorry.
It's very much like the Model UN in Community. We do have Watch the Skies, which is like a day-long sort of XCOM-ish experience where the whole world's been taken over by aliens, and you and your team of 5, you all have different roles. One of you is the head of state, one of you is the science officer, one's the military commander, and you interact with the other people of other nationalities, i.e. groups, that have registered as well, and you all try to solve the crisis of this alien invasion.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what happens if some of your technology leaks and you're responsible? You may not end up in good standing with some of the other nationalities who blame you for the fact that civilians now have this alien technology, and we have to either kill them or just let it go, and it's all your fault. So that's a lot of pressure. Which role would you have in that? Would you like to be the president of your nationality and be responsible for being the figurehead, or would you want to be the strong-arming military type? What do you think?
I might be the UN representative, I think. I'm assuming the person that does more of the debating amongst all the nationalities.
Well, I've heard some great
Diplomacy.
stories with this sort of events where, some of your own staff in your own group of 5 end up betraying the team for their own personal goals. Perhaps the science officer's more interested in getting a Nobel Peace Prize than actually solving the issue. And they take business into their own hands. I mean, this is an interesting idea. I don't think I could invest an entire 8-hour day in role-playing these sort of things, but it does sound kind of appealing. Is that weird? Is that like masochistic or something, that I would be willing to endure this? Is it something you would give a try?
I don't know. It sounds like the kind of game they would come up with at like a summer camp, and all the leaders are like the NPC kind of players in the game that are giving quests and then letting you know when things go wrong, and then the campers in different teams are the ones trying to solve and figure things out. I would burn out pretty quickly, I would say. I'd last maybe an hour or 2 before running out of steam.
I think it would be all fun and games until you have played for 6 hours and everyone's blood sugar starts to crash, and then
How well do they feed you while you're on
there's
that?
no time to eat, darling.
Oh,
The world
come
is in
on.
crisis.
You can always have catering. Please, these are the like heads of state, as if they're not going to be fed. Or actually, yeah, if I was like the head of state, I would just be a pain in the butt, and I would like impersonate other heads of state and be really rude to everybody else. That could be fun.
It's an interesting concept. Might not be up everyone's alley, but check it out. Mega Games are the organisers of it. I believe they started based in the UK, may have spread elsewhere, not too sure. Just like a good alien virus. Perhaps it's taken over more places.
Mm-hmm.
But
It's an idea that definitely could work and appeal to a lot of people.
yeah, if you're in the role-playing field, and it might be right up your alley.
If you love politics
Mm.
or aliens.
I can think of several of your friends who would be perfectly suited for this, but let's not name names.
I can't stop thinking about how fun it would be to like the president of the United States and just be like, demand donuts.
What?
Send the vice president out to bring you food.
That's abusing your power.
Well,
Now, finally, I found one experience that sounds like it would be an absolute thrill until paranoia set in and you start to think enemies are everywhere, because a university at Cambridge, I believe, or one of their campuses or something, I don't know how universities work, I never went to one, they have a extracurricular club called the Assassin's Guild. I dabbled a little bit in the multiplayer of Assassin's Creed back in the day, and you have a target and someone has you as their target, and so this large circular, I was going to say circular again, it's the word I made up the other week. So a large circular game of cat and mouse begins where everyone is hunting somebody while being hunted themselves.
mm-hmm.
Now, in a video game, that's scary enough. Let's move that into real life, shall we? If you register in the Assassin's Guild and they are running one of their large-scale games, for the course of potentially 2 weeks, you have a target. You've been given a photo of them, their home address, their schedule, what they like to do on their time off, and you are hunting them down and trying to assassinate them with some sort of actual non-lethal weapon. This is not real murder we're encouraging here. But at the same time, somebody has your photo, your home address, and are stalking your schedule. And for 2 weeks, you are going to be looking over your shoulder. Doesn't matter if you're sitting down to have lunch. Doesn't matter if you're driving to work. Someone could be tailing you, ready to stab you with a wooden spoon that has the word knife written on it.
Lovely.
Perhaps you will take a swig of your water and someone will walk up and say, just have a look at that Post-it note I've stuck underneath your bottle. And it will say poison. And you're like, oh, I'm dead. Doesn't that sound like the absolute paranoia inspiring game of all time? The Assassin's Guild.
That could be a fun game to play with like a youth group, but maybe not as long as over the course of several days. But like in the span of an afternoon, maybe they have like a secret target each, and they've got until the end of like getting together to knock each other off.
That's just what we want. I thought youth groups were there to build camaraderie and not break the team apart with petty squabbles.
Well, they like to play games like Mafia and things like that too. So I think if it's done in the good spirit of fun and silliness, like, you know, extra points for like silly, creative ways of taking an opponent out.
Now, what came to mind when I heard about this was the movie Tag, which came out a couple of years ago, about a group of friends who have been playing tag for the past 30 years. They set ambushes for each other.
Based on a real story, too.
Nowhere is safe. And yes, like you said, based on a real story, a real group of friends who have been doing this for decades.
Mm-hmm.
And during the end credits, there's actual footage of them setting traps, stalking each other throughout the years that they've been doing this. And it would definitely inspire that. Someone could be hiding in your bin, for all you know. You go to take the garbage out and suddenly they pop out and shoot you with a Nerf gun. It could happen. I would be thinking enemies are everywhere, except it's getting me paranoid already. I'm not even playing. Just thinking of the possibilities.
At least they have rules in place to make sure that no one can get you while you're asleep and things like that.
Imagine if that didn't exist.
Oh my goodness.
I wouldn't sleep for 2 weeks and be sitting in the corner with my Nerf gun going, come and get me.
You would not last that long. Your body would literally die without sleep. You can only last a couple of days without sleep.
Well, it's all for a game. I'm sure games can't be that lethal. Think about it.
There are plenty of games that have killed people.
In the most recent season of this very year, when they did their most recent paranoia simulator of Assassin's Guild, they had dead drops where everyone received a puzzle to solve, and if you got to the location that it was pointing to, there was a package, and if you could deliver that package, you got a bonus, whether it be extra intel on your target, invulnerability, whatever. There were bonuses to be had. And once somebody picked up that parcel, were trying to deliver it, basically you're a marked man because everyone else who wanted that parcel is going to take you out and take it off your body. So an extra level of fear in a game that's already fear-based. Do you take the risk and try to get the advantage? Because if you do, you're putting yourself in harm's way. Because it's not just your target who could kill you. Anybody else who's playing can assassinate you if you look at them wrong. Doesn't this just sound like the complete... See, this whole thing started off with fun ways to experience real-life video game experiences, and we have gotten to the point where I'm like, I would be too scared to do this. I'd be too scared to do that. That's too difficult for me. I'm just having no fun with this entire topic.
Well, honestly, I think a lot of those ideas are fun, but I enjoy them in video games more than real life for a reason. You know, I'm not the athletic type, so I can enjoy playing games where there is parkour physics or where there, you know, is you need more stamina or there's combat in a video game because it's digital. It's not really me. I think VR has a nice blend of the two out of all of these options. Personally, it's the one that appeals to me the most.
Because it is immersive enough, but there's no actual threat to your body.
I can tell myself, like usually, like when we were there last time, I could see just through the smallest gap between the headset and like the bridge of my nose, I could see if I looked down the ground and I could see my feet. And that helped me if I had moments of, whoa, like head spinning, kind of, this is a little too real. It helped ground me back to reality. And then I wouldn't panic if there were weird moments where I feel like I'm walking upside down. because they like to do that to you. So personally, that's what I gravitate towards. I would love to see some other more whimsical ideas kind of come to life.
Yeah.
I don't know. What about real life Tetris?
Are you the blocks?
I don't know.
There was a experiment somebody did in 2005, I think, with third generation mobile phones, which had just come out, high technology, where they had people with VR goggles walking through streets with Pac-Man dots and other people playing as the ghosts and trying to chase them down. I don't know if that could be more applicable in real life or in a VR sense, but that would be terrifying as well. Why is everything so scary?
Would you say that Pogo kind of blurs that line between video game and reality? It's got the augmented reality factor.
Pogo.
Pokemon Go.
Thank you. Augmented reality is a blend between playing a game in the real life or taking a photo of something that's not really there in real life. So I suppose this has only really scratched the surface of augmented reality. I think Microsoft's HoloLens, where you can play Minecraft on your table and see the blocks being built up on your actual living room table. I'm sure there's a lot of new ways that this could be used. Any other ideas that people have? If you think that you have the next great idea for a video game experience in real life, let us know on Twitter so we can take the credit for it.
Oh, man. Well, now that we have talked about all these incredible real-life gaming experiences, I'm itching to play some actual video games myself. So we will be back with our gaming goals after this.
Share the love. Follow us on Twitter at Brendo Jem. That's BRENDOJEM.
Well, it's that time again where we discuss what our goals are. Gaming goals. Sometimes we forget to set actual goals. But today, I am going to set some firm goals for my gaming gameplay of this week's gaming. Yeah, I mucked that up, but who cares? Persona Q2, I am planning to be completed. I can't talk anymore.
You want to finish the game?
No, I'm going to finish the second world. There is no way I can beat
I heard the word
game.
completed. I'm like, whoa.
I'm going to beat the second movie world, which is a little bit of Jurassic Park-ish. Very exciting. It's taken a strange twist.
When I hear movie world, I'm like, ooh, roller coasters. Wait, that's a theme park, not talking about worlds made from, like, anyways.
Yeah, people are trapped in movies. We're trying to save them, and I'm going to try to beat the second one. If it's anything like Persona Q, there was 4 main worlds in that, and then the finale. So hopefully that would put me somewhere near halfway through the game if it's got the same sort of length.
Yeah.
And with Vampire, I don't know. I actually don't even know how long that game is, but I'll give it a shot. Let's see how many people I can not kill between now and next week. Hopefully it's 0 of deaths, but we will see.
Have some self-control.
No, I need their experience points.
No, you're on a diet. No experience points for you.
Rat blood is not enough. You can kill rats and eat them.
Are there any other animals? What about dogs or cats?
No normal animals. I've
Mountain
seen
lions.
gigantic beasties when I was lost in the streets and took a wrong turn and went, holy moly, I didn't know it was there, and ran for my life.
What if you just ate it? If it's a beast?
It almost ate me. Comically, I lured it to where some other soldiers were that were going to shoot me and watched it just annihilate them. And then that's how I knew I was not anywhere near ready to take him on because I couldn't beat the soldiers.
Okay.
So, yeah. Vampire, it's going to be my primary console game still. So if I can pump another 5, 6, 7 hours into that this week, I'll be happy.
This is going to be a really gross question.
Yes.
But you know how the beastie killed the soldiers?
Yes.
If the beastie, like, moved away and you went back to the scene of the crime,
No.
could you can't, no, you can't have, like it's like sipping out of empties.
Is this something you do frequently?
No.
That's disgusting.
I know it's disgusting,
And
but I know
secondly,
it's something that people have done. So
expendable soldiers do not give massive experience points boost. It's only
Okay.
innocent people's blood. The pure blood.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Sorry.
Like unicorn blood?
So let's hand it across to something a little less grisly. And what do you plan on playing this week and how much do you intend on playing of it?
Divinity.
Oh, really?
Original Sin, are you going to play some with me?
You would still sacrifice your Fire Emblem time for Divinity?
I know I would have the time for both.
Oh, that's so sweet of you.
I would like to keep that. I don't want to lose momentum because we have a bad habit that,
Yeah.
like, especially with co-op games, so, like, I really don't want us to drop the ball on that. I'm having fun with Divinity. I want to keep going with Divinity, so that is on the list. I won't try to put, like, a level cap or anything on there as far as gaming go because trying to make progress in that game can be unbelievably slow. But as far as Fire Emblem 3 Houses, I think I would like to hopefully level my teaching grade level up another grade because like rank, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm maybe sitting at D+. You start at E on
What
everything.
a great teacher you are.
No, you start at E on everyone starts at E pretty much, and then you slowly, as you gain experience points, basically you level up.
Yeah, I don't think that's how academics work.
No. That's how the game mechanics works, okay? And I would also like to maybe recruit 1 or 2 new students over to my house. And
as
like,
a
poach
disclaimer,
them to the team house.
yeah, your house is not actually your place.
Well, she doesn't really have a house. She has a dorm.
Oh,
So if I say house, I mean the team house,
okay.
not her. She doesn't have a house.
I'm just being cautious because you sounded awfully creepy earlier in the episode, and I just wanted to make sure that everyone knew what you were talking about.
Context is so key right now. You take me out of context, of course it's going to sound creepy. Yeah, I think those are my main 2 goals, and I think they're pretty realistic to achieve. There's still things I'm learning about the game, and we'll start tweaking and realize that I've probably been doing wrong. But it's kind of nice to learn as I go and just enjoy it for what it is, instead of following a really rigid guide.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that those words are going to come back to bite me the next time a Cold Steel game or something comes out.
Well, I will not judge you if you are enjoying a game. It's your choice as to how to enjoy it. It's not for
remember those
me.
words.
I like to play things blind and live with the consequences. But I'm happy for you to play however you want. I've matured in my old age, and my blood is now worth more.
All right, let's
experience
tell
points.
everyone the spoilers and the end game.
No, let's get her out of here before
No.
she ruins everything. I've been Brendo,
I'm excited.
and we are the Gaming Lovers.
Excuse me.
I'm going to find more cardboard boxes to build my own stealth experience in my house and make money from it. I'm going to be rich. Chowski, chowski.
Sayonara.
Thanks for listening to the Gaming Lovers podcast. For more episodes or to watch some live stream gaming, visit thegaminglovers.com.